Thank you all for being here. It's me, Ari Dawson Rashid. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Hit the like button, share this live stream. Don't the links below. Thank you very much. But above all, pay close attention to what I'm saying in this live stream. Take notes, pray about afterwards, and where this applies in your life. Apply this knowledge to glorify Heavenly Father. Thank you. Yesterday, I was watching some old movies on YouTube. There was a mermaid movie I saw, and then there was a recommendation called Jeepers Creepers. And the name sounded familiar, and I remembered that there were movies called that way, but I wasn't sure whether I saw the movie already. So I just clicked on it. It was a movie from the year 2001. And when the movie started, man, I could remember I saw this movie before. I couldn't remember all of it because a while back. I mean, 2001 is a while ago, yo. Okay? It's 2026 now. 25 years is a quarter of a century. So I watched the movie again. And Lord have mercy, y'all. I don't know the people that make this movie. I don't even know the actors. Never been involved with them. But one thing I can tell you, the first Jeepers Creepers movie displayed plainly one fact about demonic activity that most believers don't notice. There's one thing you need to understand. As a human being, you won't notice everything. Not everything will occur to you. Thing is, if only that Father knows everything, so nothing surprises him, nothing occurs to him because he knows everything already. As a human being, you don't know everything. So from time to time, you'll be surprised by stuff, or you'll be amazed, or you'll be shocked, or you'll be mesmerized, or whatever. One thing I want you to understand is that as a human being, you have an emotional filter in your soul. So everything you experience with your physical senses, and also your spirit senses, will go through an emotional filter. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's how the Heavenly Father designed us. Okay, that's why whatever we witness, it goes through an emotional processing. We don't just witness things and that's it, pure blank fact. We're not machines. A machine can pick up data and just data. That's it. With human beings, there's always an emotional meaning that either we assign to it individually or that we agree upon it. Okay, for example, let's say now you walk down the road, you see someone is upset, and you don't know why they're upset, but suddenly they jump on another individual and beat them with a belt. Just a random individual. So you see the stranger upset. You know why they're upset. They don't talk about they just uh, take the belt off their pants, off their trousers. He does, and he begins to smack someone else with the belt out of the blue. If you see this, experience this, then yeah, you see what goes on. You see the fact of it. Someone's upset, and based on being upset, they jump on someone and stab him with the belt. So that's assault. The individual is being injured. You don't see the people around either attempt to intervene or do nothing. But most likely, it would trigger a horrible feeling in you, a sense of danger. And based on that, you think, wait, I need to do something about it. This is wrong. And you may think this is wrong. That's emotional filtering. And you know what? In this case, it's perfectly fine and healthy. You shouldn't be upset. And because you're upset now, someone else was not doing the situation, ends up physically injured. If an individual was involved in you being upset, it's not the solution. It's not the best thing. It's not even helpful to injure an individual because now it becomes worse. Okay? So even later you found out that someone stole cash for that individual, the individual couldn't pay rent, if then you would say, okay, it's understandably absurd this individual, but bro, going out there just slapping someone like that, no. You're making it worse for yourself and for other people. Okay, what if now um you have uh someone close to you telling you, man, when I was a little child, man, I was beaten with a belt a few times, y'all, when I didn't listen. I was a difficult kid, man, a difficult child, man. I was annoying as fuck, man. So I learned respect. And you hear this individual praising how they were assaulted as a child by a grown man or a grown woman who should have known better, who have and who do have options to deal with frustration than to lash out. Now, what's the difference between this individual um, telling the history of what they went through and what you saw in public, someone being upset and lash on another adult with a belt? Truth being told, there is no difference. In both cases, you have a grown man or a grown woman, you have an adult who has the option to walk away and seek for solutions, but instead they decide to choose violence. They choose violence. They choose to misuse their leverage over someone else to to attempt to get some control. Because that's the whole purpose of violence, to have control. I don't talk about fighting back when someone suddenly attacks you. I'm talking about that. When people choose violence, they want control. They want to be God, which they're not. So now, in one instance, when you walk down the street and you saw someone upset and he jumped at someone else going to beat them out of the blue, there's no way you'll be comfortable hearing any excuse to legitimize or to make right what just happened because it's not right. No, have you look at it. It doesn't lead to any good and it doesn't produce any good. But when now you have a grown man telling how he was assaulted as a child by adults who were frustrated, but this adult makes an excuse. Well, I was a difficult child. I was a bad child. Oh, hold on a minute. If indeed he was a child with issues, where does issues come from? You see where this is going? It doesn't add up. So this adult, instead of admitting that he was dealing with caretakers, whether it was just his parents or babysitters or anyone else around him, even forget about the parents, because no human being is just raised by mom and dad. Human beings are raised by the village, raised by the community. Both parents don't have the strength and capacity needed to raise any child. Communities raise children, not just the two primary caretakers. Mom and dad, mother and father are the primary caretakers, but they're not the only ones taking care of the children. The community does. So you can't just only look at the parents. Even though the parents are the ones who are able to leave an environment if it's not healthy, but you can't just look at the parents. What if the parents themselves are either toxic or they're damaged and need help? But anyway, if the parents fail, either because they're trash human beings that shouldn't even be parents to begin with, or they fail because the same are damaged people who don't know any better. In any case, when the parents fail, the community has the obligation to intervene. Simple as that. I don't care whether you're so-called don't have any children of your own. I don't care if you chose to be child free, whatever. You have nothing to want here. There's a community. If there's danger community, you're over there. You let it happen. You're culpable. Simple as that. Can you stop every bad thing from happening? No. But if you don't participate in any solution for the community, you're culpable. And by the way, individual decisions in life shouldn't be a high priority than the well-being of the community. Because if the community doesn't function well, you won't be well. The Western world, with this individualism, acts like we can all be independent entities, and none of us are responsible towards one another, nor for one another. I'm sorry, but that goes too far. But anyway, let's that an example is gave to you. That grown man telling how he was assaulted as a child. I'm saying it as it is. By an adult, you know better. I'm sorry, that's creepy. That's predation right over there. This man should admit, whether it was just his primary caretakers, mom and dad, or the people around, other adults, the environment failed him. He has to admit he's been damaged. What happened to him had a bad effect on his development, and he should own up that he's still damaged as an adult, and he needs to look at himself, do the inner work, and look for help to become better, whether it's in therapy, whether it's counseling, whatever he needs to go to. You know what I mean? So that man admits what happened to him, but it doesn't acknowledge what happened to him. There's a big difference. Admitting is just stating the fact it happens. Acknowledging is come to terms with what it implies. Okay, um, let's say someone got fired from a job and they admit they've been fired from a job. Okay, because what else can he do? But then you also have to acknowledge, okay, I'm fired from my job means that there's not going to be any income. That means there's no income. Means I don't have any income from here anymore. It also means my relationship, my colleagues has ended, unless they're willing to be friends with me outside of work. It also means that I need to find another way to pay the bills. So that's acknowledging. That means also come to terms with the impact and ramifications of what happened. So this man admits he was assaulted as a child, but now instead of acknowledging that the ramifications and the impact, namely he's a damaged adult, he was dealing with a lot of wasteful and neglectful people around him. And also, it also means that if he was damaged throughout his teenage years and also into adulthood, that means other people noticed it and took advantage of him. So he needs to check some of his relationships right now. He also needs to check his own character because maybe that means he developed coping mechanisms that are not healthy. So instead of acknowledging what happened, he only admits it and then goes right to an excuse. And in this case, he blames himself. And that's something so many adults do. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times you're culpable. There are times you are to blame. But does it mean now that you're worthless? No. It simply means that, you know what, I could do better and I should do better. So let me commit myself to be a better human being. That's it. Convictions from the Heavenly Father, guilt is not. Convictions from the Heavenly Father, guilt is not. But now get this. For you to commit yourself to be a better and safer human being automatically implies that you acknowledge what happened, not just admit what happened. You know what I mean? And here's the issue. Too many human beings only admit things, don't acknowledge things. There's a big difference. They're not the same. You can be in complete toxic denial while still admitting factually what happened. But because people don't understand the difference between admitting and acknowledging, and from their point of view, you're being real, you're keeping it real, you're being direct, blah, blah. No, 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 no. If you're admitting something with not acknowledging it, that means that you haven't processed it. It means that you're not over it. It means you're still stuck. And so let's go to the example I gave to you of you witnessing a grown man frustrated, taking his belt off his trousers, suddenly smacking a random individual while he's upset. And then another guy telling you how he was smacked with a belt as a child, but hey, he deserved it because he was a bad child. Well, I learned respect. And you there listen thinking, what the F am I hearing? Why is this grown man justifying harming children? Why does he justify people harming him at a time in his life where he couldn't have been responsible for anything? Why is he, and he talks about respect like it's some great thing. Huh? So you're kind of confounded by it. Here's what I want to show you. It's easy to see how disturbed someone else is. But what if you're the one disturbed and you're not aware of it? 9 out of 10 times, you only know the system is off with you, but you don't clearly see what's going on with you. Now, if you have people around you who are malignant, who just want to escape all the time. Anyone just want to take advantage of you. And well, if you're disturbed, they'll either use it against you or they'll profit off of it. Some people just lash out, act like you're a big monster so that they don't have to look at their own disturbance. You don't need that either, even though those type of people may be a wake-up call. They're still not good. What you need is are people who are truthful and realistic, who also consider your feelings, your well-being, and who nevertheless in the grudge your feelings will show you, listen, y'all, something's off with you. It doesn't automatically mean you're evil or you're wasteful, but listen, something's off with you. You need help over here. Now, understand this. Human beings have PhDs in making excuses. One thing our human species has PhDs in. There's one field we're so excellent in, y'all, and that's making excuses for why we're not doing better. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you're not doing better because you couldn't do better. Okay? Individually, you can't dictate the outcomes and you can't save yourself. That's why you need Christ to save you. You're a vulnerable and fragile creature. So if you aren't taught properly, you're going to do properly. So in that case, there's nothing you could have done about it. So you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty or you shouldn't feel bad about. If you feel bad about the fact that you weren't taught properly. But be motivated now to be better today. What I'm telling you is, if there's a legitimate, scientific, proven reason why you couldn't have been better, guess what? You could have been better. But what I'm telling you is, much of the violence and tragedy and just evil that unfolds on the earth only unfolds because people are escaping and they don't want to deal with life. That's it. That's it, y'all. And because the people that insist on escaping, because these unstable people outnumber those that actually want better, eventually people establish this pattern of escape called society, where people agree we're all going to escape the similar way, and anyone doesn't align with it, we kill them. Either directly we kill them, or we neglect them so much they end up starving, whatever. That is society, or what the Bible calls the world. Now, you may ask, well, what does this to do with the movie you saw, Jeep's Creepers? Well, listen. Everyone is influenced by the environment they grew up in. If you grew up in China, then likely you speak Chinese. And your attitudes may reflect Confucianism, which is one of the root philosophies of the Chinese civilization. If you grew up in the United States in a liberal state, then likely you speak English, in this case American English, but in your life, in how you perceive things in life, you may be a bit more relaxed, unless you grew up in a liberal state but with conservative parents, or maybe you have liberal parents but you want to resist it, so you take the other options offered, conservatism. But anyway, you are affected by your environment. So someone that grew up with a Confucius ideal that education is the key to govern a nation, guess what? If a woman grew up under that regime in her life, when it comes to finding a partner, education is going to be her key motivator to be with a man. Why? Because that's how she was shaped, that's how she was molded. If a woman grew up in a capitalistic society where a man's value is not based in his education, but in how much he can dominate other men, then she will be more inclined to go for uh, the quote unquote the bad boy type, or the harsh men who get results. Even those men will not be the best men to be with. Why? Because that's how she's been shaped. Same with men. Men are shaped by the environment too. So when people make movies, especially movies, their how they were molded by their communities or societies will always reveal itself. Ask someone, ask a movie director from mainland China who grew up in mainland China to make a Norwegian crime series. I'm telling you, unless he spent at least 20 years in Norway with a Norwegian partner, having no, um, having children with his Norwegian partner, and immersing himself in Norwegian culture, he will not be able to produce a Norwegian crime series that will resonate with Norwegian people. If he would attempt to do it, just coming fresh from China, he's hired as a movie director in Norway, and I'm just going to produce this Norwegian crime series. I'm telling you, people that watch the series will notice: is this a Norwegian series? I'm sorry, but where are the Scandinavian attitudes in this series? Where is it? He may put some characters in it who are highly educated, and they end up being the heroes in the series. Now, if this was a Chinese series, that would be that would resonate completely based on the Confucius history of China. But for a place like Norway, it may be a bit off to the viewer, and that's what I mean. So this is not something people are aware of. How you were shaped and molded, especially during childhood, but also as an adult, you can be molded by your environment. However, your environment that molds you will always show up in your actions and your behaviors. Always. And it's scientific. If you grew up in a stable environment where the adults, overall, not all of them, but overall, they had self-control and they emotionally process things instead of lashing out, you are more likely to be an open individual that communicates directly. You make yourself vulnerable. You have more hope in people doing well, even if they don't. So you may develop toxic naivety, expect everyone wants better. Why? Because you grew up and the most adults around you were people with self-control, who emotionally took responsibility for themselves. If that's you, okay, listen, I'm glad you had a safer environment like that. We can't guarantee a safe environment for every child, no, but you had a relatively safe environment. However, it could be you were so shielded that you are not prepared to face fallen mankind for what fallen mankind really is. So you may end up joining political movements that are questionable. You may end up entertaining friendships that are questionable. Why? Because you keep believing people want the best. It's good to believe that people want the best, but unfortunately, some people are not like that. Some people are self-destructive. If you grew up in a ghetto, in a neglect environment where domestic violence was the norm and people laid hands on you growing up, guess what? You are more likely to be overcompensating. Either overcompensate by um, being this doormat, toxic people pleaser, but you also may be compensating by becoming this tough guy or tough woman, not taking shit from anybody. And you don't even notice how hostile you are. You don't. But others will notice you being quite aggressive, even the way you speak, the way you look at people. But the thing is, to you, that's just how life is because that's how you had to be to survive where you grew up. Now, that hostile attitude served you to survive. But the thing is, you should never be in that toxic environment. So now you're out of it. You need to heal, recover, and outgrow those toxic coping mechanisms, or else you end up harming yourself and others for life. You hear me? Now, so when you see movies out there, understand the background of the people that make these movies also be shown, including the understanding they have. Now, one thing I can tell you about the Jeepers Creepers movie. Let's talk about how it begins. You have two teenagers, or at least they seem like teenagers, driving a car. It's a brother and sister. The brother's driving. Apparently, he picked up his sister. They're on their way to their parents. And the sister is a bit annoyed by her little brother. Um, common teenage stuff. They encounter this caravan. Not how do you call this in American English? Hold on. Is it called a trailer? But anyway, they call this vehicle with two elder people in it. And it's a bit struggle to pass by, but eventually they manage to do it. The elder people look at them, they're not happy, but they go past them. And while they drive ahead of the, hold on, let me check how you say this in American English, okay? Hold on. Most of the people listening to me are from the United States. So, but hold on. I think it's a trailer. Yeah. Anyway, you can check it yourself. Remember, English not my native language, but anyway, so they bypassed the elderly couple in their vehicle, and they drive in front of them. But the thing is, they could still see the vehicle in the mirrors, both the side mirrors and the front mirror inside the car. But the two are arguing so much that they didn't notice that the elderly people suddenly got off the road. Now, if there's a side road to leave the freeway, I get it. They had to go there, but the elder couple just moved into the grass like that, which is quite unusual and quite dangerous to do. So they got off the road very quickly, and the way they got off the road means that they tried to avoid danger. But the thing is, the two youngsters, two siblings, didn't even notice it. And then you had um, this vehicle almost made solid from metal coming behind them, pushing behind them. And when the guy wants to turn to the other side of the road to make let the truck pass, the truck would come back behind them. So eventually thinking, what the heck goes on? What's wrong with this guy? Eventually, long story short, they managed to get away from the situation. But guess what? That's where all the problems begin. Later, when they drove by, they saw the guy that drove that vehicle somewhere dropping corpses into a hole. And the entity saw them. Well, they thought it was just a dude. And the problems begin right over there. But if you look at the beginning of this movie, one thing is obvious. The two youngsters didn't pay attention to the environment. If they did, they would have noticed, hold on a minute. Why did the elder couple suddenly get off the road like that? What goes on over here? And when they arrived in town to tell the people of what they saw, people were dismissive. There's another red flag right over there. Anyway, I'm not going throughout the whole movie with you. What this movie showed was that there was iniquity or normalized violence around there. And because it was normalized violence, people didn't notice the demon that was operating over there. Oh, and in the movie, There was a story of some other youngsters from their background. A couple who disappeared, and allegedly the woman of the couple lost her head. So you already had rumors about horrible things happening. And now on the road, the witness, this is already happening, you don't know this. Now, look, it's a movie. So of course you compress things, all of that, but you can learn the following from it. Demonic activity can only continue where the public is neglectful. The intensity and amount of demonic activity relies on the public's neglect. Where people are not neglectful, no demon can operate. They just won't have any opportunity or any chance to do so. Now, in the Jeepers Creepers movie, it's about this fallen angel who is chasing people on the road, triggering fear into them, and if they end up afraid, he gains leverage over them to physically kidnap them and murder them. After murdering them, he consumes parts of their body. That is what it's really about. Now, now that's intense demonic activity, where a fallen angel turns to a skinwalker and actually causes physical harm to humans and animals in the environment. Now, such things did happen in history, and such incidents will happen if Christ comes back, but likely not as extreme as in the Jeepers Creepers movies. But that's extreme over the top demonic activity. Most demonic activity is not that over the top. I think we all can agree on that. But it doesn't mean that the less severe demonic activities don't have equal amount of damage it's causing. One thing about believers is that I've noticed that a lot of believers worldwide, they don't have any answers nor solution for things happening in life. Now, I'm not saying that pagans and devil worshippers have solutions, no, but at least they have an answer how to deal with stuff that even a lot of believers lack. As believers, people shouldn't expect us to be the Heavenly Father, be able to fix everything. But people should be able to notice solutions working out in our lives. That's one of the fruits that they should be noticing with us. But with a lot of believers, because they've been deceived so much, or because they're so out of order internally, they are part of the toxicity of the world. So you won't even notice they're even a believer because they don't have the fruit. Okay? You're still a believer, but because you don't walk in the spirit, you don't see the fruit. So you can easily mistake them for a toxic sinner or a toxic for a toxic worldling, whatever. But anyway, look, going back to the parable I gave at the beginning of this live stream. You walk on the street, you see someone's upset, they grab their belt from their trousers and suddenly start smacking someone else. And then someone tells you how they were smacked as a child with a belt, but they justified as well. I was I was a annoying child, but I learned respect. I already told you both cases are exactly the same. It's assault. But the thing is, the first assault was done against someone who could have fought, who could fight back. The second was done to someone who couldn't fight back. Thank God he survived, but now instead of acknowledging fully what happened, and then also taking steps for his own recovery, he's making excuses for it. So he's choosing the damage. And this is what one should understand. When people choose the damage, instead of acknowledging what happened, and that means also fully processing and improving, if they don't fully acknowledge what happens, which also means they automatically also end up doing the processing and becoming bad and safer than human beings. If they're not doing that, they're choosing the damage. But when they choose the damage, they eventually become the perpetrators of the harm that harmed them. They become part of the problem. They may not realize this, but that's exactly what happens. No grown man or grown woman should excuse any adult, whether it's their own parents or others, will lay hands on them growing up. Because if they do, that means that that human being is coping. That means that uh, they are not, uh, that means they have mental issues somewhere, even mental issues are dormant. That also means that they have this false belief, they have this error that it's okay to harm people when you're upset. That means that they might uh, decide one day it's okay for them to harm you. But even if they don't ever won't ever do that because they don't see themselves harming people, they may end up agree to harmful situations. For example, let's say that one guy who excused people beating him when he was a child with a belt. Let's say he now hears that hears about police brutality. He can clearly see that this police officer was overboard and he should be prosecuted. But because he himself agrees with violence as an outlet, even at his own expense, because he justifies people beating him when he was still a child, he is more likely to stand with police brutality than with standing with the community that's harmed by it. And he just saying, well, it's the law, you just have to comply, just have to do this and that. It's wise to comply with the police officer when it's in your face because, well, you're not going to win that from the whole police force. But it just doesn't mean that you justify um, people being brutalized, especially when it was necessary at all, when they didn't from any threat. Someone launches with a knife at a police officer, even then they can just shoot him in the leg and or taste it. And I've seen body cam footage of police officers like that. Even when a suspect uh, was launched at them, they were able to bring them down without killing them. But then you have body cam footage where someone was not a threat at all and ended up being shot or ended up being killed. And people can see the proof, they're wrong, but it still come with some justification. Why? Because they're right, because they're used to do that all the time. They call it quote unquote respect. Here's the thing though. If you face your own parents and the people that raise you, you'll face anyone in life when they're off. And here's the issue though. If you don't face people that raise you, not just your parents, everyone around, if you don't face people that raise you, you'll end up condoning, excusing any type of evil out there if it's done in the name of authority. So you end up being part of the problem by co-signing evil, not even aware you're co-signing evil. Because that's what you used to do. That's how you were raised to be. Now, I'm getting somewhere with this. Just hold on. Evil spirits can only function where it's human neglect. And as human beings are neglectful. So you still have to blame the human beings if the demons operate there, because why would demons able to operate to begin with? Now let me give an example to you right now. Okay, let's say you have a woman called, let's call it Lisa. Okay, and Lisa, on her way home from work one time, she was followed by a dude. Actually followed, and he creeped her out. She walked through multiple streets, taking multiple turns, and yeah, he was right behind her. She had no pepper spray on her. She had no weapon. So she called. Um, she called the police very quickly. She called 911. And the operator told her, okay, walk in this direction. And the moment she walked towards the police station, the guys are following her. Traumatic experience, right? She had to go into counseling to process this. Well, nobody can blame her. But then, a few months later, she hears that a guy was arrested for, he's suspect of killing, molesting and killing a woman. And when she looked at the face on TV, she recognized the guy. And she told people, This guy's been following me a few months ago. And she was shocked. But you know what shocked her more? She found out later that this guy was known to be creeping around. He was known to be off. Since he was a teenager, he had some perverted attitudes. But here's the thing though, nobody did anything about it. Okay, when he was a child growing up, and he came from this dysfunctional household, by the way, there's no excuse for you to be harmful as an adult. But the thing is, if he needed therapy or counseling and it was just a child growing up, people had all the resources to intervene. Why didn't do it? As a grown man, he should have faced himself become better. But what if he was just dysfunctional, but not an actual, what if he wasn't an evil guy, but just dysfunctional? And because he was dysfunctional, he had this weird attitude. People still could call the mom and say, bro, it was this. But now he was a dysfunctional, he was just a reprobate. He chose the dark side, became a full reprobate. Well, that's not to do with how he was raised. It's him that chose to abandon himself. But even after he became a full monster, he could only be a monster where people let him be a monster. And he was so comfortable being a monster, he did it in the open, in daylight. So Lisa was traumatized again because she thinks, hold on a minute. I could have been dead by now. I could have been one of his victims. This guy's a serial killer. How the heck was he able to operate like this for years? Unbothered like this. Now, in this case, it's obvious. The serial killer was not the problem. The people there were the problem that allowed them to become a serial killer to begin with. And the thing is, there are people that become reprobate. Some are from horrible households, some are not. But you don't see them going around molesting, killing people like that. Doesn't mean they never think about it, but the thing is, they're not in an environment where they have opportunity to do so. So it doesn't happen. They remain dormant. But the environment that neglects the norm, guess what? It's like paradise for predators, yo. And it's not only reprobates that are predators. Common people can also become predators when they unilaterally demand relief from you without considering you. Okay? Even parents were predators emotional on their children, but this will not be a topic for another time. Listen. Eventually, demonic activity works out through human behavior or through human circumstances. So it may not be that a demon has the full ability now to become a skinwalker and roam around in a metaphysical state, causing physical harm directly. It was likely that the demon or demons are having a party over there, causing mayhem and a lot of distress in population because demons feed off of human unrest. So demons always want to trigger or facilitate unrest in our species so they can feed off of it. When evil spirits are able to facilitate and generate unrest at ease, it is because the people are in on the unrest. The people there are in on it. If you grew up over there, you may not notice it quickly, but an outsider can notice it very quickly. You know what I mean? Just like in Jeepers Creepers, those youngsters saw the demon directly, so exactly what went on, while the locals had a hard time seeing it. Where is iniquity, there's emotional blindness that people cannot notice or process certain things. Just the way it is. It shouldn't be like that, but that's the way it is. And that's why we need to be delivered from iniquity, y'all. Now, get this. Get the following. When there's demonic activity and you see it for what it is, the last thing you should do is run your mouth and blast the information out there. Let me give you another parable. I already gave you the parable of this Lisa, who was almost molested and murdered by the serial killer. And later she found out that almost everybody around knew about this guy being creepy, being dangerous, but everyone just let it happen. Let me go to another parable, y'all. You had this guy, you had this music producer uh, who is he's quite exhausted. He has feels a lot of fatigue lately, but doesn't know why. He ended up going to the medical doctor for amicus and why he's fatigued all the time. But guess what? They couldn't find an actual cause why he's so fatigued. So they urged him to change his diet. So he did. He still felt fatigued. So one day he had enough. He shouldn't have done this already. That's the thing he should have done, but he went to prayer and fasted. He should have gone to the Father immediately instead of trying to figure it out by himself. But unfortunately, there are believers out there who are stubborn, who are still in the worldly ways, and need to outgrow them. But then Father will chastise them his way. It will be painful, but it needs to happen. So this believer, let's call him Brian. Brian eventually goes to prayer and fasting. And he feels intense heaviness out of the blue while praying and fasting. And he decrees in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. The sword of exhaustion exposed and is melted now in Christ Jesus' mighty name. After that, didn't feel fatigued anymore. But 2 days later, he felt energized again for the first time in months. He's out there in public. It's the main square of the town he lives at, and he sees this guy standing there. The guy's skin is it's like he has permanent uh, um, burning marks on his. It's like his skin's been burned completely. He looks so damaged. I thought, and it's like he saw something like smoke coming out of the guy. I mean, he thought, "Am I hallucinating?" But no, it was actually there. And within a few minutes, he realized they said there's a demon standing there, and he could actually see the demon directly. But he ignored it because he said, "Listen, normally human eyes will pick up these things unless you're either spiritually gifted or your spiritual eyes are open." So we ignored it. But the fact that you could see the demon there, instead of just feeling the demonic impact, because normally when an evil spirit is present somewhere or demons are active somewhere, you will feel the impact on your physical body and your mental well-being. In this case, the guy saw the demon and it still upset him. So one day, um, a bartender he knew, because he went to bars a few times in the past. A bartender he knew, a woman, she said, "Yo, Brian, you look a bit shocked. What goes on?" And Brian made an excuse. Well, I didn't sleep well. And then the woman can press on Brian. I know you. What goes on? And then he tells her, "Listen, this may sound strange. Don't think I'm crazy, but there's a demon standing right over there." And she said, "Duh," and she made a mocking sound with her voice. And it was trying to think, what? And she said, "Brian, of course it is a demon standing there." And he was wondering, "What do you mean, of course, demon standing there?" And she said, "Brian, everyone knows the demon is there. Yo. Everyone can see the demon over there, yo." And Brian asked, "Okay, but why does anyone wait? So everyone can see the demon?" Yeah. When the children point out the demon, the parents act like the children have dementia and a friend, or they just want attention, or flat ignore the children. So wait, so Brian was confused. Brian also, wait, are you telling me everyone can see that fallen angel standing over there? And I said, yeah, we all know he's there. We just agreed emotionally. There's no agreement on paper. There's no voting anywhere. There's no document of record, but we all emotionally agreed to, you know what? Just act like you didn't see anything. But Brian was saying, okay, but Angela, let's say the one's Angela, why are you complying with this? And Angela then told them, listen, Brian, for your own good, I'm telling you, sometimes in life, pointing out the obvious may make you the target. When people don't want to deal with something, they'll avoid it. If they can't avoid it, they'll build their alternative reality around it. They'll find a distraction to deal with it. They'll make a lot of effort not to deal nor talk about things they don't want to they don't want to face. If you show up putting it in the face, this is here, that means that all the efforts have been futile. It also to make them, it's also incriminates them. It's going to make them look bad that a stranger or outsider clearly see what goes on, but they're in a situation, and it's going to make them look bad. And nobody wants to be in a situation where they look bad, even if they leave the situation. So when they look bad like that, there's no excuse that can justify their avoidance. Guess what? They're going to associate this conflict pain with you, and they're going to take it out on you, yo. Some will fear to come after you, yo. And Brian's okay, understand that, man, but why would people put up with this demon over there? And Angela just said one more thing, which walked away. Brian, would you stay in a place? Will you stay in a place where you're not invited, where you're not wanted, where you don't have the leverage to shut people up if they want to kick you out? A police officer may go to a place. He's not wanted nor invited over there. He's not welcome over there because he's a police officer and he has a gun and all police force behind him to intervene. People will be polite towards him. But if you go to but would you go to a place where you have no leverage, no backing, and nobody wants you there, you're not invited? Would you want to be there? And Brian said, of course we wouldn't do that. That's not good for my mental and physical health. Because even if people nobody attacks me, them ignoring me or being so mean or talks towards me, it's not good for me, not good for them. And they may lash out against me and I end up injured or whatever, or it may escalate. Of course we want to do that to myself. And she just think about it. And she just left. Later on, Brian thought about it. And Brian still kept seeing the demon every time it goes to the marketplace. And Brian realized, hold on a minute. If everyone sees the demon, that also means everyone knows that the demon has a bad effect on them. And Brian remembered how 3 months ago he was fatigued all the time. And he couldn't figure out why. He even went to the doctor, to the medical doctor, out why I'm so fatigued. He couldn't find a cause, just told them, suggest them to change his diet. So he changed his diet. And the fatigue was still there. Only went into prayer and fasting, and he cast out. And he didn't know what it was, but he shut down the source of his fatigue. He wasn't fatigued anymore, but then he noticed a lot of people around him were fatigued often and tired. Then he also noticed the demon standing there. So Brian made the connection and figured out what goes on. He felt fatigued because of the demonic presence in the town. The demon presence caused the fatigue. But the thing is, everyone was so used to being fatigued, nobody realizes he's off anymore. And even if we saw the source of the fatigue, they didn't want to deal with it. Just went along with it. Now, imagine now, it's not fatigue that Brian felt. Imagine Brian actually had a deep health issue like a disease. Let's say Brian felt an infectious disease out of the blue and became terminal, is about to die. And yet relatives who died of the same disease. The state it lives in has a record of a lot of people dying of that disease. But then one day he finds out that the water, uh, the water installation nearby is run by questionable people. People were shady, involved in criminal activity. Long story short, he finds out that the water is partially polluted. It's polluted. So people that are drinking polluted water are unaware. But you notice people getting infectious disease and dying over and over again. This has been going on for 20 years. And and the thing is, the people that run the water plants, they're not even aware that the water is polluted because the water installation is outdated. Because it's outdated, there's some pollution coming out of it. But the people that run the water installation aren't even aware the water is polluted. They're distracted. So, but the thing is, who's behind the situation? There are evil spirits feeding off all the emotional pollution that all the all the diseases and fatalities. Because all the people that die prematurely by the disease, the funerals, people are injured emotionally, people are in grief and sorrow. All this emotional pollution, demons are feeding off of it. So there was actual a demonic presence that were feeding off the bad situation. Now, on the human part, they should have been inspecting the water plant, the water installation multiple times. The thing is, the evil spirits realized it was neglect, and they capitalized on the neglect to keep the diseases and the premature deaths going. So were the demons killing people? Yes. With the aid of the public, we didn't want to own up to the situation. So let's say Brian recovers of the disease, doesn't die. How things going to feel? That he almost became collateral damage because the people there didn't want to face the no didn't want to face the pattern of disease that was going on. If they would have owned up to the pattern of disease, would have figured out, okay, there must be a source of this, and they would have figured out very soon it may be the water they're drinking, and they could have dealt with it. And then the evil spirits that are capitalized on it wouldn't be able to do it anymore. Listen what I'm saying to you over here, y'all. There are situations in your life you've done all you could to improve them. You worked on your own attitude, you worked on your own behavior, you went to therapy and counseling, and you're almost getting depressed and think, what else can I do? What goes on? Listen, remember when Jesus came down from a mountain and his disciples couldn't cast out the spirit from a boy. So the father came, and the father of the boy showed unbelief, and Jesus was sad with that, but Jesus said, bring me the child, and Jesus healed the boy. Later, the disciples even asked Jesus, why couldn't we cast it out? And Jesus said, because of unbelief. This kind doesn't go out except to prayer and fasting. Listen, some of the difficulties you experience in your life are physical, financial, and social outworkings of demonic activity. But the reason demonic activity continues is because of the neglect of the people. And this thing, though, you can't change the people. If you would confront them, they would declare you crazy, push you in a mental asylum, or they would attack you, get you arrested or whatever. So either all the people move away or they die, so they're not around, or the people have to improve. If neither of those happen, then the people have to be overruled. And once they're overruled, now the demons can be shut down. Because if you cast out evil spirits, other demons will take in their place. And then you keep going, you keep casting out demons and being exhausted. You're helping you're helping the demons destroy yourself because you keep exhausting yourself casting out demons. The demonic activity will only cease through fasting and prayer. You have to seek the presence of the Father when deep fasting and praying in a state of joy. By doing this continuously, over time, your joyful impact will scatter the dark clouds around the ether over there. It will break down the demonic tension over there, and eventually it will backfire on the people receiving the negativity. And once that happens, the demons now cannot remain over there and they disappear. Once the demons disappear, it backfired on the people. Now there is room for abundance to take the place and to fill the gaps. You know what I mean? Too many of you Wanna lift up a mountain with your bare hands. Or you want to fill a valley with fresh, you want to fill a valley, you want to turn a valley into a lake. And how you want to do that? By grabbing a cup of tea and going back and forth between the river and the valley, filling it with cups of water. Imagine you wanna imagine you wanna flood a valley, turn it into a reservoir, an artificial lake, so that you can do agriculture around whatever. Let's say you want to turn it into a reservoir. You have to have a big pump to pump water for somewhere, or you need to uh, build dig a canal to redirect river water over there. Those things you can do, but you can't go with a cup of water or a few bottles of water back and forth between the river and the valley, and then no, you especially cannot eat. Well, that's something you may. If you do that, you may get some water in the valley, but it will evaporate by the sunlight anyway. So it's useless. One thing we're not able to do anyway physically is lift up a mountain with our bare hands. I It may sound weird I'm saying it, but that's the kind of thing you want to do right now. You want to resolve the iniquity because it's not just your individual financial or social situation you're dealing with. Your fiscal, financial, social situation is a result of public unrest and public neglect. It's like you want to take on too much on yourself that you're not able to do. Now, amount refers to difficulty that's beyond your ability to change. There are difficulties that are beyond your control or beyond your ability to change, but it still affects you. What do? Jesus says, speak to the mountain. Faith as a mustard seed means you have an invasive attitude in your faith. You don't care about being invasive and intrusive in other people's lives and affairs. You spiritually decree and declare. You don't ask any permission, any consent. You decree and declare to get something done. And with this invasive, persistent attitude, spiritually, you fast and pray, and little by little, you're going to see improvement. While at the same time, the destruction happening out there in society because the iniquity that built up, you're bringing it down. And by bringing it down, the structure that keeps the problem going is shut down. And because of that now, the problem is not affecting you that much. And because of that now, you have better outcomes in life. Too many of you are fighting the fruit instead of dealing with the root. So fasting and prayer, joyful fasting and prayer is the key to overcome stubborn, long-term, deep-rooted problems in life. It could be that it's a victimization issue. Everywhere you go, people are comfortable mistreating you. People are comfortable laying hands on you. It's not to do with you. Somewhere growing up, someone marked you as a scapegoat spiritually by emotionally being negatively so focused on you. Others picked up and aligned with it, and before you know it, it became an emotional, unwritten rule that you are the outlet. So even when you go to a different country where everybody knows you, the people there also seek relief. So when they see you, they pick up from the ether that it's okay to escalate on you. So unconsciously feel comfortable treating you as less. I didn't think, what the heck? Wherever I go, people keep mistreating me like this. It's a pattern that's been established against you. Now, what you do is you need to recognize the pattern, also recognize your own coping mechanisms that enable the pattern over time because you develop those. And now you fast and pray, you begin to heal and recover internally, and eventually the pattern cannot work anymore. Now, this also will mean that some of the relationships you have right now will need to go because they were based on coping mechanisms that you don't have anymore. It could be that you're surrounded by people who never valued you, but hey, that's all you had, so you made the best of it. But now that you're recovering, people don't come take advantage of you anymore. They ghost you, and now you develop better relationships with other people. You have to be willing to lose the false comfort you have in order to operate in the real comfort that God is giving you. You have to be willing to lose the false comforts you've accumulated over time so that you can operate in the true comfort and for it's providing for you. Okay? So fasting and praying. Listen, I know there are some of you facing stubborn, deep-rooted, long-term difficulties. And it may be obvious right now that it's not your fault. But it's not your fault does not mean it's not happening. It's still happening. So instead of coping or fighting it off or just run away, now sometimes leaving a bad environment is a solution for you, but that's not always. Instead of doing that, just go to fast and pray, go to the Lord. If you need to leave an environment, leave a job, leave something, move away, you do that. But the thing is, if it's a deep-rooted societal pattern, moving away will not solve anything, will only give you temporary relief. You need to go into fasting and prayer and get ready for discomfort, folks. So that discomfort is your deliverance process. You hear me? All right. So to summarize the live stream, there's all demonic activity to the extent people are neglectful. That's why it said in the Bible that we don't war after flesh. Our weapons are not carnal, but mighty to God for the pulling down of strongholds. It's the mental alignment to evil that needs to be dealt with. That's what needs to be overruled. The physical circumstances, no matter how horrible they are the outbreaking of it. If you focus on the physical, you end up doing illegal, unlawful things to deal with the situation, and then they can use it against you to make you a convict, put you in prison or whatever. But even if you don't end up in prison, you have to deal with things purely from the physical. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to backfire on you. That's why Christ said, "Don't avenge yourself. Leave place for wrath. Let the people have their wrath. I will repay you for trusting me to work this out for you. I will turn around for good for you. Just trust me. Don't be distracted by these people doing wrong. Trust me." That's what God is saying. You're not able to control people, and you're not able to improve them. You're not able to rectify stuff. You can't. So you have to trust God. Let God guide your steps. Listen, too many believers die before their time without reaching destinies because they don't go to Heavenly Father first. Go to Heavenly Father first and praying and fasting and see there will be victory flowing out of your circumstances. If you don't see it immediately. All right. Are there any questions about this topic? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. Are there any questions about this topic? Anyway, thank you all for being here. Keep agreeing with Christ.